Greetings, humans! Zbot1496 here, giving a first look at the new second season of Star Wars Andor, the first 3 episodes of which aired last night on Disney+. The idea with this first look category of content is to share our view of the first few episodes to provide some directionality on whether it's worth watching along, while tactfully glossing over plot specifics to avoid spoilers. So, the quick answer here is frack yes! But let's give a little nuance. Clearly, we love the gloss and the nuance. Now, useful to recall up front is that Andor's first season is our favourite Star Wars content since the climax of Return of the Jedi, and our favourite TV show since the reboot of Battlestar Galactica. So, very big shoes to fill here. Looking back at our review, we were floored by the extraordinary plot and emotions, a focus on the brutal and clockwork tyranny of the Empire, and the lack of the Force. In re-watching the entire show in preparation for the second coming of Andor, and now watching these 3 episodes, we have the growing realization that each of those observations, while accurate, slightly misses the point. For one, this show is about real characters. Yes, there's a great plot, but it's more so about these characters feeling like real people who then do things in the plot that they would actually do, which rings true as the actual focus of showrunner Tony Gilroy. This sounds simplistic, but we now see Cassian Andor, as played by Diego Luna, as not just reacting like a pinball to the various injustices around him, but slowly adjusting his clever plan from the short term to the big picture. And as we open the new season, we see him take on more of the role of the catalyst as he validates the palpable fear of a colleague and stokes the fears of another group that puts his goals at risk. We see the return of our favourite characters from the first season, Luthen Rael, Mon Mothma, and Dedra Meero, all processing the consequences of their choices in the past season as we begin this one. Now, other than a giant action set piece to start, this focus, following characters around in cinematic tracking shots and scheming around complex rituals, has us lulled into sequences that feel like an Art Deco shogun. The tyranny of the Empire is, if anything, more stark this time around, with a casual planning at a luxury resort of a large-scale atrocity, and also a very interpersonal threat to a main character, also casually matter-of-fact as part and parcel of the power imbalance when persecuting a group over their lack of correct papers. The depiction of the Empire's power is there, yes, but unlike the destruction shown in Star Wars, this shows the pain. This shows what the pain does to people, how it crystallizes thinking and motivates actions. What that looks like, not simply on a one-to-one basis, but how oppression affects groups, cultures, where their breaking points are. Some become informants, some become collaborators, some simply break. But some also realize that their lives are their choice. Which brings us to the third slightly missed point, in that this show doesn't have the Force. Seeing the 15 episodes so far in sequence, including the 3 new ones, we have a new perspective. This show is saying something about the human condition. Star Wars is always saying something about the human condition, that an individual believing in oneself can inspire others and collectively bring down a tyrannical order. It doesn't have to be the Force. That specific metaphysical energy is just a metaphor. Instead, in Andor, the show is saying that empathy is an energy field created by and inspiring all living things and binds the galaxy together in solidarity. We see it now in the rising rebellion in the Star Wars galaxy. Marva's speech at the end of Season 1 was a lightning rod moment, yes, but there's more ripples that we see and hear about as Season 2 opens. And so the Force is actually in this show, from a certain point of view. Now, this being a first look, we want to signal that this show is good to watch alongside us in its initial release. And, at the same time, we want to highlight what this show needs to get right in order to deliver on our expectations. There were a couple of things that gave us pause. For one thing, the first episode, other than its action-driven cold open, is slow, and nothing concrete seems to happen after that first scene. Season 1's first episode had a similar outcome, and checking our response files from that viewing, we were also worried about where this would go. In both instances, we sat with it for the first 3 episodes and had a more positive sense that we had seen something happen. This is more than we usually give a show to capture our attention, which is normally 1 to 2 episodes maximum. It's as if Disney Plus is aware of this issue with this show and blurts out the first 3 episodes to make sure that they give it a chance to fully say what's on its mind. So the first thing Season 2 needs to deliver on is just do the same thing it did the first time, which is ratchet up the stakes and excitement for each of the characters in their stories to reach a credible climax point, as well as a thematically compelling arc for them. Now, that's no small feat, so we'll give them something that should be easy to do for Item 2. The next thing is that they need to stay timeless. We deeply appreciate the mashup of tyrannical setups drawn from human history. What throws us off is when current vernacular jokiness breaks the fourth wall of Star Wars. As noted in a deep dive of the original trilogy last week, the fact that Star Wars is an entirely fictional live-action setting is a key, if often overlooked, aspect of its relatability to anyone who feels like an outsider. There is a scene in the first episode where some characters do a bit of a jokey banter that triggers our senses and takes us out of the show. Many of the liberties the show takes elevate the material. This one does not. Hopefully, we won't see any more of that. And the last thing Andor needs to do is fulfill its mission. Take us on the journey and credibly bring these characters and the worlds of the Star Wars galaxy to the point where Rogue One and Star Wars begin. Again, no small feat to be sure, but this is the goal they set out for themselves, so no surprises there. We want to see this at scale. We want to see the galaxy rise up. But most importantly, we want to see the theme of Star Wars integrated, namely that the persistence of the individual and their example can inspire the strength to break tyranny. Make this happen, and our journey through the dark side will be complete. So, for the time being, our assessment at this stage is that Star Wars Andor Season 2 earns our definitely worth watching rating. And so concludes this human version of our first look. If you have feedback on it, please write in your comments so that we can upload the galactic version to Zoggplex. You can expect more discussions and reviews of theatrical movies, streaming shows, and 4K home video releases as we continue to engage with your human rectangular entertainment. So please watch, like, subscribe, and comment so that we can continue to have the human voice reflected in the cosmos. So, until next time, farewell, humans.